All right, there we go. All right, Pastor John, man, anything you feel led to just share before we jump in? This is a dream come true for both of us.
Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for even coming to me with the suggestion. We both kind of talk about the books we've read over the years and how we read all the time. And we're like, man, we wish there were just a space where we could be with other Christian leaders and just talk through some of the things that we talk about every single time we text each other. And so this was probably birthed out of you prompting this, and I want to just thank you personally, publicly, and let you know that I appreciate you for this because both of us do this all the time ourselves. We're like, man, we should just loop other people in. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, man, people have been sending me text messages like, man, I'm so glad I joined this book club because this first book has been challenging and it's been something that I really needed to start the year. So thank you again for your vision for helping make this happen. But I'm just excited about the conversation we're about to have, and then the folks who are here to kind of hear some of their thoughts as well. So excited about it, bro.
It probably is good, at least at this first one, and we'll get into the book here at your best. That's what we're focusing on this month. And I'm sure some people are just inquisitive, and they'll take the initiative on researching people. But for the sake of it, let me just take a moment. Let me introduce to you all who Pastor John is, so that you'll know a little of his what he's got his hands in. Why I don't mind hanging out with him. I think he's just an incredible guy that happens to do amazing work. And he and I, he's one of those friends, y'all, that I can send a text that is very heavy, theological, legal, professional, and we can go from that. And 30 minutes later, once that question is answered, I could send him a text talking trash about sports. That's how we flow. That's our relationship.
Exactly.
Uh, or he'll text me, send a screenshot, say, "Bro, did you see this?"
Yep.
so,
Yep.
so it's good for you to be able to have friends that have that nimbleness and that dexterity
Hmm. Yeah.
to handle it. But Pastor John is a pastor, but a certified, bona fide, graduated, degreed lawyer. And bibliophile, loves reading. That's how this idea came to fruition. Is a community organizer, is the chairman of the board for the Witness Foundation, which is an amazing organization doing incredible work across the country and even raising up other leaders of color to lead in not just ministry spaces, but also in nonprofit and civic involvement. He is on staff at St. Mark Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is why he's always behind in terms of time. But God gotta watch over him for that. Gotta watch over him for that. And some of you all might remember a few years back, we had the unfortunate incident with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. And a lot of the work that you saw being organized, the Run with Maud, some of the local Brunswick, Georgia efforts there that were taking place that hit the globe and that was getting pressed all over the world. One of the organizers behind that effort was Pastor John Richards. And so, Pastor John, we love you, brother. We appreciate you. Y'all see his sweatshirt on there. He's unapologetic HBCU grad. We have discussions about that too. So just want
Mm.
to take a moment and at least let people know who you are and what you're doing. Did I miss anything?
No, I don't think you did. And I know I had several people sign up for this list too that might not know who you are. So I want to make sure I introduce y'all to Mr. Wisdom Incarnate over here, Pastor
Look,
Christopher J. Harris. He's a graduate of Florida State University. He's a proud Knoll for sure, absolutely. And that's where we have our point of contention around college football. But he's much more than that. He serves as executive pastor of Crossover Church in Tampa, Florida, and does an amazing job there. He got like 500 jobs, y'all. I wonder if he is Jamaican. I just don't know. I know I have Jamaican descent, but he may have more
hey,
jobs
mom.
than I do. He runs a search firm for anyone looking for Christian leaders What's the name of it again, Pastor Christopher?
diversechurchjobs.com.
Yes. And so he's actually helped me place some jobs for some organizations I've been working with and through. He's done work at the University of South Carolina, Princeton Theological Seminary. And also you've done some stuff at North Carolina too, right? So
Yep.
you're just doing a lot. And I'm just happy to know you because you definitely are a source of wisdom and encouragement. And when you find like-minded brothers like Pastor Christopher, you definitely want to hang on to them. So for my people who are here, who've signed up through my kind of distribution, I wanted to make sure y'all know who this man is. Listen, I don't attach myself to very many people, but this guy is genuine, loves the Lord, and also loves pouring into other leaders. And I think that's one of the things that really connects us. And we both have a heart for that.
Amen. So everybody, y'all should have your chat up. Hopefully you're not like multitasking too much. But hopefully you should have your chat up. Let's jump into the book. So at your best, that's what we're doing here, at your best. And I know some of you have the physical book. Some of you may have listened to the Audible. Some of you may have downloaded on Kindle or Apple Books. It's on all platforms, so you had no excuse not to be able to get it. Let's start talking about the big idea from the book. Let's start talking about the big idea from the book. Pastor John, what do you think, man? What do you think? Like when you finish this book, you close it, you take a deep breath, you back up, and you're like, man, all right, what did I just encounter? What do you walk away with some big idea, like the big idea for you from this?
So for me, the big idea from the book is, man, all leaders have the potential to suffer from burnout. And to help avoid doing that, I think he has three key focus areas he talks about: focusing your energy,
Yep.
leveraging your time, and realizing your priorities. That's how the entire book is outlined. And he does that through various methods, but I think those three key ideas kind of just stuck with me as he's talking about how to best do that. And I think for me, the biggest idea of the book is this idea of the zones. I know we're going to talk about that, Pastor Christopher, but I think that part right there really resonated with me and may have resonated with other people too, the color zones.
Yeah. Those of you that are listening in, come on, type in the chat. What for you was the big idea? What did you take away from the book? And we will Walter raised his hand, so we'll bring him up really fast. Hopefully I don't know Walter, but hopefully he's presentable and not outside walking on the street getting us dizzy or something like that.
We trust in you, Walter. We trust in you.
We trust in you, Walter. We're saying that to Walter, but we're saying that to everybody, really.
Yeah.
Walter, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Are you coming on camera or just audio?
Audio's fine.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to us, Walter. What was the big idea for you?
The big idea for me was recognizing that we all have limits. We can't do everything, and we can't be everything to everybody as much as, as leaders we want to be. We need to just slow. I think the book forced me to slow down and recognize that, where are my limitations and where am I trying to exceed those limitations? Because there seems to be this reason where when you reach those limits, that's where you reach that point of burnout. That's where you have that stress, and you find yourself breaking down because you haven't recognized in yourself that, I have limits. I can't do everything.
Yeah.
And by the way, I am a no, like Pastor Christopher, and actually from the same hometown as Pastor Christopher as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Really? Walter, what's your last name?
Oliver, man. You know me.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Wow. It's good to hear you.
You probably know me by my middle name, Lee Oliver.
Yeah. It's probably been 15, maybe 20 years since I've seen you.
Good.
I know.
Walter, I was hoping you weren't setting them up for that awkward, like I might not know you, but I'm glad y'all know each other.
Yeah, that would have been super awkward on a recording that's going to be national, right? That's hilarious. Walter, it's good to hear your voice, man.
Yeah,
Likewise, man. Good to see you.
it's good,
Blessings.
man. It's good.
That's
Thanks for that.
incredible, man.
Thanks for that feedback, man. Thanks for that
Yeah.
feedback.
So I
Yeah.
think to his point, Pastor John, I think it's interesting because we do all have our limits. And one of the things that, like when he was talking, one of the things that I thought about was, man, how many things have we said yes to?
That's right. Yeah.
Like what are the list of things in terms of expectations, demands on our time, demands on our energy, et cetera, that we've said yes to. And the truth is, we've said yes to too many things. Some of that stuff is not going to get quality attention.
That's right, man. That's right. Yeah. And the other thing that I think about when he said that was accessibility, right? Because
You said
Newhoff
accessibility?
said accessibility. Because
Okay.
Newhoff says in the book, when you think about responding to people, the depth of the relationship should determine the depth and speed of your response.
Yep.
So people expect, especially with these smartphones in our hands, right? They expect us immediate responses, right? But he says you got to evaluate sometimes the depth of the relationship in order for you to determine when your response should happen and the speed of your response. And don't be guilty about that. I know
Yeah.
sometimes I might can feel guilty about responding to people and not having that timely response, but sometimes you got to gauge that relationship because you really are busy doing
Yep.
work. And so I
Yep.
think everybody sets that expectation that you respond immediately because you have your phone on you, but just don't know what you got going on throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I think, one of the big ideas for me, I mean, the zones thing, it seems so simple, but to
Mhm.
actually and that's the beauty of reading, right? Because reading gives you language and
Mm.
helps you to articulate and put in a framework
Yeah,
things that are so simple sometimes, but it becomes so powerful,
for
right?
sure.
Like
Yeah.
all of us, like if you were to ask, if you were prior to reading this book, if you were to ask us, are there times during your day that you're just not the best? All of us would have been able to say, absolutely.
For sure.
Oh, we'd be like, oh yeah, this probably, I'm not this or I'm, whatever. But man, to be able to say, okay, no, wait a minute, this is my
Mm.
green zone, this is my yellow zone, this,
Yeah.
to be able to walk through that like that is just
Yeah.
like,
Yep. It's transformative, man. It really is. So
yeah,
that's one of the things that I was able to think through and implement immediately in my life. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Um so I know like that was one of the things that was like one of the biggest quotes for me is like you only have 3 to 5 productive hours in your day.
yep,
Like that really hit me because I'm like, man, folks
yep.
be thinking you got 10 hours in you. And bro, by the time I get to a 4 o'clock meeting or a 3:30 meeting, I know exactly what zone I'm in. I'm
Listen to
sitting there,
me.
I'm sitting there, eyes glossed over, and I'm like, bro, this is not about to get the best of me and my
No,
best work. It really
no,
isn't. It really isn't.
no. Have you,
Yeah.
okay, so let's be honest, Pastor John. Have you ever been in a meeting and find yourself waking up from the meeting? Like in the meeting?
Like what was just said. The worst part is when somebody says, "What do you think, Pastor John?" And I'm like, shoot. Well,
Hilarious, man. You hear me? Hilarious.
it is the absolute truth though, man. It really is. So
So,
I reshaped my personal calendar and added my zones in there.
so did
And
I.
so I have zones and I don't mind if you don't mind me doing this.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't mind sharing this. So you
Yeah,
see here on my calendar for today, these are my zones.
yeah.
Kind of this is the lunch period, so I haven't put a zone in there yet, but I put all my zones in here and then organize my projects based on the zones that they're in.
Now, let me just point something out really fast. Y'all, Pastor John was talking all that trash about me. Y'all see how many projects he got on this? Y'all see how many projects he got down there? on this calendar, he can't say nothing else about me.
Come on, man. Don't do me like that. But I have to make sure I keep those in my calendar. Otherwise, they're not going to get done. Right. And
Yeah.
so I have various projects for various zones. So when I click on the zone itself or the project itself, it shows me where I can work in that yellow zone, green zone activity. And
Yep.
so I have all of them kind of set to different times during the day when I'm working in those zones. So
Yep.
this is one of the things again that I immediately was able to put into place by adding my zones to the calendar. Something sounds like similar. That sounds so simple, but it really did kind of help me frame my day. I was already framing my day, but I was like, all right, so what can I do during my red zone hours? Because I need to be able to do something. Oh, I got admin, emails, things like that that are just simple things. So hopefully somebody else was able to do that. If y'all were able to do something like that, drop something in the chat, raise your hand. We'd love to bring you on stage to kind of talk about that. But that was
Yeah.
one of my takeaways for sure, Pastor Christopher.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple years back, I started I was reading, and I still read Harvard Business Review. So I'll go through Harvard Business Review on a regular basis. And one of the ideas that I got from one of those books, everybody's quiet in the chat, by the way, which is really interesting to me. But that's another conversation for another day. But in Harvard Business Review, they were talking about the number of Fortune 500 CEOs and high-level CEOs that take naps during their day.
Hmm.
And so I started incorporating that. So I take a nap every day.
Hmm.
And here is what was interesting for me that was a part of, oh, it says the chat is disabled?
Oh no, that's
No,
not good.
that's not good.
That might be it then.
That
So
might be why.
we'll have to drop that in the Q&A, but we'd love to
Oh,
hear.
so yeah, so you can type in the Q&A then. I'm sorry. Type in the
Sorry,
Q&A. Type in the
sorry
Q&A.
about that. Yeah. Because we're doing a webinar feature.
Yeah,
So maybe that the chat is disabled. So we're
yeah,
sorry about that, y'all.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
So we're learning. We'll adjust that for our future months ahead here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chat should not be disabled, but I got it. It makes sense. So, but anyway, the mistake that I was making, Pastor John, was that I was putting sometimes my nap in my green zone.
Man, you missing some key hours or key time.
And my nap should never be in my green zone. My nap should either be at a time that's my yellow zone or right at the verge of being in my red zone.
Right.
And so I was able to make that adjustment because, probably like you and I, probably like me, your schedule is that there are times because of ministry that we have to have evening meetings or, whether that's virtual or in person. So if my red zone is 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 p.m., then that's not going to be good for those evening ministry meetings or ministry gatherings or whatever that looks like. So I had to
Yep.
create some window in there where there was a reset for me physically so that by the time I got to 7 o'clock, that is no longer a red zone. It's actually now a green zone.
That's good. Yeah, that makes sense. Because now you got that nap in, you have that energy to be able to do that.
Yep.
That's good. That's
Anybody
good.
else? If you want to make a comment really fast, we're still on the big ideas because next we're going to go to some quotables, some significant quotables in the book. If you want to raise your hand, you don't have to come up on stage. You can just come up and just do audio if you want. Or if you have a question with what we've discussed so far, feel free to put that in the Q&A and we will we'll pay attention to that there.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So everybody's good. All right. So let's go into some quotables. I'm gonna list the first quotable that stood out to me.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of walk through this and talk through this and that kind of thing. The first one, and this was toward the front of the book on page 24. He says on page 24, because I just made a note, a document that had a bunch of things that stood out to me. Days off vacations and even sabbaticals are not a complete solution
Mm,
for an unsustainable pace.
mm,
A sustainable pace is the solution for an unsustainable pace.
mm. That's good. Yeah.
Ah,
No, that's good.
I read that and I put the book down. I was like, oh,
Mm. Because that's what we hear from people all the time. Like, if I can just get to my vacation,
yeah,
or if I can take this sabbatical, I'll be good. And then you come back to the same chaos. So
yep.
so it makes sense, but to read that and like, man, it really was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Like you got to
Yeah.
reorder your whole life based on that statement. Because then you got to say, man, am I living at an unsustainable pace? And
Mm,
I don't know about you, Pastor John, but I constantly feel the I don't want to say the push or even the pull. There's another word I'm looking for. I
mm,
constantly feel that tension
yeah.
of having to constantly be responding to things and responding to people, right? Uh,
Mm,
I was he talks about this in the book as well, where he talks about talks about technology, right? And our inability to control our use of technology. He said it makes us sicker, more anxious, and more distraught than ever before. And
mm,
so when
mm.
I was reading that and thinking about like 5 years ago, or let's just go 10 years ago, how many inboxes did you have? Right? The average person
Man.
had, 3 or 4, maybe 5, depending on how many
Yep.
email addresses you had.
Yep.
But man, as social media has reinvented itself, that's doubled, tripled, or 10x the amount of inboxes, quote unquote, that you have. Because now you
Hmm.
got a Facebook inbox, now you got an Instagram inbox, now you got a X inbox, right? So it's not just your email inbox. Now it's those social media inboxes, and that doesn't count the number of people, whoever that has actually does have your phone number, that now you're responding to text messages and da 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 da. And then you also have voicemails that you're responding to, right? So you
Yep.
got voicemails in your office, voicemails on your phone. A lot of people have a Google Voice number, so they got voicemails on a Google Voice. So everything is like 10x, and you're constantly like responding to stuff. And
Mm.
depending on how much you're creating, and like all these projects, you just cannot respond to all of that stuff.
You cannot, man. And here's the thing that gives me anxiety, Pastor Christopher. I like inbox zero. And I'm like, the number of emails I get between the time I check it at the beginning of the day and the end of the day is just, it can be anxiety inducing from time to time.
I'm
And
not even going to
so,
look at my number because you'd have major anxiety.
listen, man, if I gotta have, so Outlook has this deal where once you get to inbox zero, it says now you can go enjoy the rest of your day. I like seeing that for some reason. so that's just kind of my personal thing. I'm like, bro, I got to be able to have that. And you about to show me something to get my anxiety up.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show the Saints today.
Oh, go ahead and show them.
Uh-oh.
Oh my, 10,000,
No,
20,000.
yeah.
What? Man, stop, bro. I cannot. I cannot. That just shot my anxiety through the roof because
Yeah.
I I cannot I can't have my inbox do that to me. So I do have a system for that though. It's helpful. It helps me to kind of do that. But to your point, I'm getting to your point. Your point was that, man, we get so much of that now that it just becomes and can become overwhelming. So figuring out ways to be able to navigate that well. And I know you navigate yours well, even though you got 20,000 messages. I know you navigate it well. And so figuring out what works for you is a good thing. Is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I,
Let me ask you a question.
okay.
I'm about to do another quote, but I got to ask you about your how do you keep your notes feature? Because that's another inbox thing that I'm trying to figure out. So I got Apple Notes that I use to kind of keep notes. I use Evernote too, but sometimes on the fly I just use Apple Notes.
Yep.
And bro, I've seen so many people that use Apple Notes and it's just so much random stuff in there that there's no way they can find anything.
Yeah.
Right. So So for me, I have to even make sure I make sure that that piece is organized because it helps me become a better leader, and it helps me to work in my green and yellow zones. Because if my notes are chaos, I'm in a red zone looking for stuff. And so
Yep.
that's what helps me to stay in the green zone, yellow zone piece when I need to be, is staying organized. Because organization is also red zone, but once you get there, you're in a good space.
So here's
You're
what's
in a good
crazy,
space.
right? So I showed you the number of emails that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the complete opposite on my organizational system.
Mm. Hmm.
So I don't create an Evernote document that doesn't have tags on it. I don't have unnecessary notes. So all of my notes, if I put it in my notes, it's either being transferred over to a document or to a Evernote or to, whatever, where I can kind of organize stuff. Like my computer is organized to the T. My desk,
Good.
you don't see I don't have, like, everything is in a folder. Well, that gives me anxiety. People that don't have documents, like if you ask me to find something from 17 years ago, like even
Mm.
my wife, she's like, I'm blown away at it. She's like, I can find a document on my computer from 17 years ago. All you got to do is give me 2 or 3 keywords, and I'll be able to find it within about 5 minutes.
That's good, man. That's
Yeah.
good. And
Now,
people don't appreciate that until they need it. Until they need
listen,
it.
listen. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
here's the other thing in chapter 3 that I really recognize. Chapter 3 is about you actually having time. Because
Yep.
people, bro, we live in a busy culture. The
Yep.
first thing that people will say when you ask them how they're doing or what's going on with them, I'm busy.
Yep.
Super busy. And so here's one of the things that he mentioned on page 49. He says, stop saying you don't have the time. Start admitting you didn't make the time. Man, I've had that conversation with people so often
Yeah.
because people sit on things and projects. You see, I got a bunch of projects that they need to be doing.
Yeah.
And the excuse is, I don't have time.
Yeah.
But boy, if you did a time audit,
Yeah.
and I think the zones help with that
Yeah.
because it gives you an opportunity to see that you're spending your best time or best moments doing the worst activities.
Oh boy, that's good right there, man.
And
That's good.
so and so for me, I continually tell people that, but I also try to show it through the stuff that I'm doing. People
Right.
are like always like, how are you getting so much done? Because I'm maximizing the green zones and I'm making sure that I'm not making an excuse that I don't have time. Bro, I got kids, you got kids, we got jobs, we got outside ventures, we work for nonprofits. There's so much that we got going on, but it's the passion that drives us. It's the passion that drives us.
Pastor John, let me ask you this question. You asked me a question last. I'm gonna ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
How does a leader, not you per se, but I'm asking you, but I'm asking this for the purpose of leaders. How does a leader stay aware of what's happening culturally, whether that's through the news, media, social media,
Mm.
not allowing it to consume them and distract them?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that is a yellow zone activity. That's going to happen after my devotional time in the morning. I have a Feedly roll that takes me through news for the day. And
Oh,
so I'm
stop,
going,
stop, 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 stop. That's a practical resource for y'all.
Mhm.
Everybody, that's a practical resource. I didn't even know you use that. Me and you, man, we have so much in
Absolutely.
common.
I use it every single day.
So,
Feedly takes blog rolls or news rolls, puts them in one source for you, consolidates them, and you can work your way through them article by article.
yeah,
So, I got all the main folks. I got Time magazines, I got Wall Street Journal, I got CNN, I got other pieces. And I'm not reading every article because you don't
yeah,
have to.
yeah.
I'm just taking the ones that pique my interest, working through those, taking any snippets I may need or things I may need to address as a pastor. So for me, that happens as part of a yellow zone activity where I need to do some reading outside of my usual main space, which is I'm doing exegetical work, expository work, leadership work, nonprofit work, social justice work, all that good stuff. You about to show me your Feedly? That's it, man. That's
So,
it. So
now in full disclosure, my Feedly has 1,000 there, but all of these have been read.
Yeah.
All of my
Yeah.
Feedlys have been read, and they're in the
And
category.
categories. Yes, sir.
That's what I'm
You
trying to
just
tell
make
you,
me
bro.
happy.
They're in the categories
Yeah.
of things that matter to me.
Yeah.
So business, this says financial, but it's really business. So all things about business marketing, leadership, best practices, all things around husbands, how to lead well as a husband, leadership, marriage and family, ministry blogs, ministry ideas, then the news here, other technology, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know why Steve Fogg's thing is separate, but his should be underneath ministry blogs. But yeah, so yeah, I'm
Yeah,
definitely
it's just like it's the same thing, Pastor Christopher, as our parents and foreparents getting up in the morning, opening the newspaper.
yep.
The same exact thing. And I'm looking at headlines. I'm saying, I don't need to read this. Oh, this
Nope.
is good. Let me check this out. And so it doesn't take long at all, but it helps you to stay in tune to the culture so that when people reach out to you and say, hey, Pastor John, you heard about this? What you think about this? I'm not like, oh, I've been a hermit in the hole and I don't know anything about anything that's happened culturally. So I make sure I keep as they say, Karl Barth said it, but I don't believe this. The Bible in one hand, the newspaper in none other.
That
So
quote has been attributed to so many different
to
people.
everybody, right? So I'm just gonna use anonymous from this point on, but it's the truth though. Like we definitely have to be able to engage culture, and that's how I best do it. I'm glad you do the same thing. So for those of you who are here, that's a free resource for y'all. Get you a Feedly blog roll. All you gotta do is actually copy and paste the link to the actual site, and it just shows you the articles from that site in your Feedly roll.
Here's another quote from the book. I'm going back just a couple pages. Seasons, after all, have beginnings and endings. If your busy season has no ending, it's not a season, it's your life.
Listen, that was one of the ones, bro. I was like, you're preaching now, brother Kerry.
What?
Because we love to wear that badge of business, and I'm like, that season's never gonna end,
bro.
You just have a busy life. People are like, I can't wait till I get out of this season, bro. You've been in that season for 44 years.
44
It ain't a season no more.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
Let's jump into a couple of practical things about the green, yellow, and the red zones really fast. So
Sure.
how did you, and I'll walk through mine a little bit too. How did you actually, let me ask it this way. Was there any tension around how you navigated finding your zone?
I think no, I don't think so. So I knew naturally when my body is up, ready to go. So I'm a morning person. I know he talked about the percentages in the book. So I'm in that whatever percentage of morning people it is, like early morning. So I know that at 6 o'clock, 5:30, I'm gonna be in a sweet spot zone where I'm having energy. So I'm trying to navigate what that green zone looks like. And then taking it down to yellow when everybody else wakes up. Why? Because I don't have focused time.
Yeah.
So then I'm doing yellow zone activities when the family's awake and we're trying to kind of connect in that space, right? And so here's the thing I was wrestling with, Pastor Christopher. I was like, man, how do you put your family in the yellow zone? You know what I'm saying? So even though it's family time, like I'm thinking of like we're trying to get out the door and we're trying to be intentional about having conversations around certain things while we're trying to get out the door. So I want to make sure that I'm plugged in that way. So I was okay with putting that in the yellow zone space. Now our family game night, stuff like that, that's the green zone stuff. Like we're all the way locked in, plugged in for that. But I think to answer your question, I think I was able to look at my days, my meetings, the time I'm having with my admin and seeing, okay, here's where my zones play out here's how they played out for the past couple of years, and here's how I'm going to make it happen. Because before now, I've actually had an ideal work week calendar. So
Okay.
this is like if I had a perfect work week when nobody interrupted me to
Come
get
on,
my
Michael
input.
Hyatt.
Yes, there you go. So I actually put together my own based on kind of his format.
Yep.
And I had given that to my admin and saying, hey, protect this time, protect this time. And it just all overlaid on top of it perfectly. Because I'm like, yeah, that's a green. Yeah, that's red. Yeah, that's yellow. Because I
Yeah.
do a lot of writing. So writing is my green zone. I got to be able to lock in and focus on writing. And so all those green zone activities just fit there perfectly. And I put all my goals in green, yellow, and red zone activities.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So,
So
yep.
for me, the thing that, and I'm not sure that I think he touches it a little bit in the book, but this is the part that I think requires some discernment for a leader if they're reading the book, is the acknowledgement of those times where while you may be operating in your zones, there are some days that are the exception to the rule where you may not feel the best.
Yep.
And you should not try, even based on what he's saying, to just power through that day because, oh, my green zone is from 7 to 10. So I just, even though I don't feel good at 7:15, I just need to keep it. That's not wise, right? That's I think what he's also saying in terms of just being aware of who you are, where you are, and what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I think that's important for us to at least acknowledge.
That's right, man. I'm gonna show you this. This is something I'm definitely willing to share. So I had to make sure I looked at it first. So this is my to-do-ist, my list of items. And so
Yeah.
you got a tagging system, I got a tagging system. So all my tags are gonna be based on my zones. So green
Yeah.
zone is gonna be writing, reading. So all these are green zone activities that I've scheduled throughout the day. So I got some book summaries I got to write, finish up today. I got to record something today and then finish the book. So I do a book a week. Fridays are my days when I finish it.
Yep.
Every day I finish them, I just check them off. But my green zone activities are prioritized in my to-do list. So the priority is the red here. So they're always going to show up in today's green zone items.
Yep.
And so I put these in my calendar at specific times. So they're showing up in my calendar and not just on my to-do list. Because to-do lists that don't show up on my calendar, they're helpful, but they're not always useful, especially when it has activities connected to them. So yeah, that's another resource I definitely would commend to people if you're looking, because I know people have their list all over the place, maybe in reminders, but Todoist has a good system where you can kind of place everything in one place, tag different features. I've been using it for years, and it's been helpful for me. So the calendar, alongside this to-do list, all my items go over to that list listed under those projects I have. So I turn the projects on in the zones, and I say, all right, here are the projects I need to do in my green zone activities.
We didn't rehearse this, but here's something I just want to make note of that I think is important, right? So you and I are connected, we're friends, and I'm looking at and listening to the similarities of just how we operate. And I think it's something important for people that are listening to this and reflecting on this. Like, I think we say it, I don't know that we actually fully embrace it. And that is, man, you really need to have people around you that get it the way you get it, that understand life, you understand it. Because otherwise, let's just say that I was a person that was completely undisciplined, I'm completely unfocused, I'm not productive, I don't have multiple things going on, et cetera, et cetera. They're listening to somebody like you talk, and man, you got an app for Todoist, you got
right,
got the zones, and if a person is not only comfortable in who they are, but they're not also in the same space where you are, that could come across as arrogant and who he think he is. He good at two shoes, all of that. No, y'all, listen, you have to be around people that are headed in the same place where you're headed so that you can navigate and learn and engage. Pastor John and I, as often as we talk and as often as we engage, the idea of Feedly never even came up, but here we are today, and we're like, oh yeah, I use my Feedly too. Like, oh
right.
yeah.
Right.
When the Bible talks about how can two walk together unless they agree, and the bad
Mm.
company corrupts good manners. It works in the reverse as well. That good company builds good manners. It builds good living. It builds good lifestyle. Right.
That's right.
So
That's
I think
right.
that's just an important point that I think should lift up. Any more? I mean, is there more Q&A from anybody? We're happy to bring you up, or happy to look at your Q&A there as well. Let's maybe, for the sake of time, let's deal with a couple other quotables, and then maybe we can jump into some key takeaways really fast.
Yeah. So this one was helpful for me because my wife always talks about me when he talked about relationships, and the limitations of your relationships.
Mm,
So in the book, he mentions, he quotes an author that talks about you only really having 3 to 5 true friendships,
yeah.
and 12 to 15 people are in your sympathetic circles.
Yeah.
So the total number of people that you can actually connect with is actually smaller than those 5,000 folks you have on Facebook as friends. And so, I always tell my wife all the time, like, no new friends. That's my mantra. Like, and I know, and as you mentioned earlier, like that might sound or come off as arrogant, but when I have friendships, I pour myself into them.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure I'm pouring into the folks that I have in that friendship space. And then other people I'm able to give time in other different types of ways. And so I think we have to be comfortable with making sure that we know that there are circles of friendship. Like, yeah, obviously we have friends that are going to be close, but then there are going to be some friends that aren't so close, and that's okay, because it's going to pull on your time if you're a good friend, if you're going to develop close friendships, and you can only have 3 to 5 of those. And that's one of the things I thought was good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good. Let me read this quote that I saw yesterday, man. It blew my socks off. I'm not even sure that that I even understand the full totality of the quote, even, but I thought this was so powerful. Um, let's see. Pastor Chad Beach posted this, and man, I was like, wow. I sat 15 minutes just reflecting on it. He said, unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments.
Ooh, the premeditated resentments. Ooh, wait. That's so good.
What?
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
we walk around here resenting stuff and people because we have unspoken expectations.
Mm, mm,
And in some cases, unrealistic expectations. So that, I think, that deals with what you're talking about in terms of, man, no new friends, close relationships, and really, being able to pour yourself in, because you're not going to pour yourself into a relationship that's not going to have, that's not going to be adding value.
Yeah.
Or the person doesn't, you're somebody's best friend, but they don't see you the same way. That's a problem.
Wow. Yeah. That's good, man. Yeah. That's so
Problem,
true. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even, you got a friend that is highly needy, and they want to talk to you every day, but that ain't your style, your rhythm.
Right.
There's gonna be some resentment there, because you like, I can't talk to you every day for
Bro, not every day.
not every day. Not to be productive.
Nah, that's a good quote, man. Wow. That's profound. Yeah. Yeah. That's good, man.
Let me just mention, like, in the book, let me pull it up here. So on page, what do you talk about? I had it highlighted. Yeah. So on page 204 of the book, he talks about dopamine and,
Mm-hmm.
what dopamine does to us, the reward center, all of those kinds of things. I thought it was pretty powerful. Like, as I'm reading that and thinking through that, like, even for me, when I was reordering some of my green zone and yellow zone in particular, not so much the red zone, because I was pretty clear on that. But the green zone and the yellow zone, it was acknowledging, to your point, those things that just, like, your dopamine is kicking in for this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not sure that we are completely comfortable with ourselves as leaders to even just acknowledge what is that dopamine hit for us, right? Because
Right.
to somebody else, it may not be a dopamine thing, and they may even be like, that's kind of weird, or
Like,
you're,
like
whatever.
you that excites you? That doesn't excite
Right.
me.
Right, right. You know, like I never forget, Tiger Woods was asked in an interview, the interviewer asked him, so Tiger, when you're not doing golf, what do you do for fun? He says, I play golf.
Mm,
She said, no, 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 no. She's like, when you're not playing golf, what do you do for fun?
mm.
He says, no, I heard you, I play golf.
Wow.
She said, so, okay, so how do you relax though? What do you do to relax?
Mm.
He said, I play golf. And there was this like 25-second awkward pause
Mm.
because you could tell that the interviewer, the news reporter, she couldn't wrap her mind around what he was saying.
Right. Right. She missed it, man. That man
Yeah,
enjoys, it's a passion for him. He enjoys playing golf.
like this is not. I'm blessed that I've been able to make money from this, and it's my
Mm.
livelihood, and I'm a billionaire, whatever. But this is also how I relax. This is how I
Mhm.
think. This is, my respite. This is what I do on vacation. I'm not just out here just to make money. Thank God for it.
Mm.
But like, when I want to go and do some recreation, I'm playing golf, right?
That's it, man.
Now,
That's
I'm
it.
sure there's probably some other stuff that he probably does, but I'm saying, like in that moment, that quote, that moment just stood out to me. And I think, you know, somebody saying, well, man, that just feels like boring that you read a book a week. Like,
Right.
what do you do for fun, man? Like,
That's it,
like that
bro.
does
But that's the thing that Kerry talks about. He says gifting plus passion plus impact is your optimal green zone focus.
yeah,
When all those three of those combine, oh man, you in there like swimwear. And
yeah.
so finding gifting, passion, and your impact and finding that intersectionality, that's it, bro. That's it.
So I want to tie in two things really fast to this point and to, I think, what Newhoff is also trying to communicate to us about, us being unique in our impact. So I had the chance to listen to an interview by Bishop Jakes, and the person asked him, they was asking him about his preaching, how he prepares his preaching and that kind of thing. And he said, I stare at the text for days.
Mm,
I said, what? He says, I stare at the text for days.
mm,
I want to see something in that text that maybe I hadn't seen before.
mm,
He
mm.
said, for days, I'm just staring at the text. I'm staring at the text. On the backdrop of that, I have a friend of mine who's a comedian, and we were talking one day, and he said, most people don't realize that the thing that makes comedians funny is that they take stuff that everybody else skips over in everyday life, and we
Yep.
see it and then talk about
Yep.
it. He says,
Yep.
just how we observe.
Mm,
So when you talk about impact, and to the point of what Carey Nieuwhof is saying,
mm.
I really think we have to become comfortable at staring at our thing,
Sir.
at seeing anything uniquely enough that becomes a thing that is our impact. How do we
Mm.
make an impact with what we're doing? So when I'm reading books, I'm not just reading books for information, for knowledge sake. I'm reading books because I'm trying to figure out, to your point earlier, man, what's the wisdom behind this?
That's right. That's right.
What is the heart behind this?
Yep.
Uh, I'm not just uh, listening to podcasts or attending conferences or listening to webinars or whatever just for the sake of it. I'm trying to take the idea and make it applicable and relevant and practical to the people that I know I'm going to have, be in front of. And many of my people will tell you, whether it's, Wisdom for Life or the church or other settings, like when I talk, I want to be able to have something to say. I can't have something to say if I'm not reading,
That's right.
if I'm not studying.
Mm. No, that's good, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
All right. So we've talked a little bit already about how we're applying this
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that kind of thing. So let's talk about some next steps, man. So we read the book, we walked through what he's talked about, sustainable paces and all kinds of other quotables. What are some ways that this really, like, we can now start to adjust our living? That's a
Yeah.
good way for me.
Yeah.
Adjust our to what
Mm.
we've read.
Mm. Yeah, I think one of the things that the adjustments I've made, and I've been guilty of this in the past as a leader because I don't want to disappoint people, right?
Mm.
So setting up expectations on how I'm spending my time
Yeah,
is helpful for the people around me
yeah,
so that they understand times in which I need focused time and energy, right? So they know when my meeting times are, and they're able to now slide themselves into meeting slots as opposed to having the impromptu meetings during my green zones. And so what I found is I would have those meetings, Pastor Christopher, but I'd be thinking about my green zone activity.
wow, wow,
So I'm like, they interrupt me and I'm like trying to be nice, but I'm not giving my full self. And so I'm thinking about, man, I really need to be writing this message. And it's really something, when you get a sermon and you get in that writing mode, and you like, man,
the
it
river
just
is flowing
flows.
is what I like to
like
say.
like the river is flowing, the spirit is, and it's like it feels like it's all quenched in a moment where you decide that you're going to accommodate somebody else.
Yep.
And so that idea of deciding how to spend your time before other people do is really something as a takeaway for me, and I think for a lot of leaders, that we really need to lean in on and make people understand the expectations of when you're available and when you're not. Because I don't like closing my door, Pastor Christopher.
Yep.
Like I like having being an open door leader, but also I want to make sure people understand there are times where I need that focus time and energy. What about you?
Yeah. No, that's good. To your point. Um, so I to your point, um, I don't really like confrontation. And I'm very uh I police my time very well.
Hmm.
And we've talked about this before. Most people see me on stage, they see me preaching, they see me teaching, all of this. They don't realize that actually I'm probably more introverted than people realize. And so, and my wife will tell you that I'm not always pleasant if I feel like people are taking advantage of my time, or if somebody's doing things or saying things that I feel like, okay, now it's enough of that. Let's move on to the next thing. And I don't want to disappoint people in that way, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guard my time. One of the ways that I also guard my time though also is I guard my phone number,
Mm, that's
right?
good.
I
That's
do.
good.
I guard my phone number, man, because here's a perfect example of one of the reasons why I guard my phone number. So I don't pass my phone number out to people. And one of my pet peeves is when people reach out to someone else asking for your number and that person just gives the number without asking your permission. Right.
Man, that is the worst. You hear me?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
absolute worst. And
Yeah.
again, that can sound arrogant though, right? But it really is not, because you're being a good steward of the time that God has given you.
Yeah.
And I took my team knows I have a trap phone. They call it the trap phone because it's the phone number that I'm willing for them to give to people who need to get in contact with me from the church.
Yeah.
And I have a personal phone number that hardly anybody has.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure I keep those separately. But they call it my trap phone because apparently they think I'm a drug dealer, and it's a joke around the office. But it's to your point. Like I don't want people giving out that number
Yeah.
because it's part of that protection of time too.
Yeah. So this person gave this other person my phone number, and the person called me. I honestly was in a meeting, so I didn't even see the phone call come through, right? And several hours passed. There are times I don't have my phone on me, or there are times like right now, my phone is on do not disturb. So if somebody's
Mm,
calling me or text me, I'm not going to see the alert at all unless it's like my wife or kids.
mm.
Outside of them, nobody's getting through. So that evening, when I actually got to my phone again and saw the text messages, here's what the gentleman said in the text message. He had called me twice. I hadn't
Mm.
seen the calls, legitimately hadn't seen them. So then he texts and he says, "What's the point in me having your number if you're not going to answer my call and I can't get to you?" Pastor John, you know me, bro. How you think
Holy Spirit, activate. Wow.
I wanted to be petty and say you weren't supposed to have my number in the
You're
first,
right. Who told you could have my number in the first place?
right?
What's the point of you having my number in the first place?
Right. But it sent a strong message to me,
Mm,
not even about him, but that the people that have my number know my heart and know how to respect my time.
mm, yeah, that's good.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, this, in some ways, this book was affirming to me that protecting your time is necessary if you're going to do the things that God has called you to do.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Or how you use your time, being a steward over your time. And that's different for everybody. That
Mm,
is different for everybody. And for those of us that are wired certain ways, a lot of the work that you're doing, you're writing book summaries or whatever, videos, things of that nature. You can't do that work around a lot of people with a lot of interruptions and all of that. And guess what? You got to become okay with that. And other people
mhm,
have to become okay with that. Uh,
mhm,
so I'm sure that there are times that, if you're in your office, everybody want to stop by and interrupt. You can't do that in your green zone in the office while people are interrupting. And they got to be okay with that do not disturb sign on the door.
Got
Yeah.
to, man. Got
Yep.
to. So it's
Yep.
been a great book, man. We've enjoyed reading it. We've heard from y'all that y'all have enjoyed reading it. I gotten text messages from folks who are in this chat. They're like, some folks say they ain't even readers, and they've enjoyed joining this book club. So I appreciate you for joining it. And Pastor Christopher, we got another one coming up next month that's going to be a heavy hitter.
Ooh, reparation.
We're going to talk about reparations next month with Duke Kwan and Greg. I can't think of his last name right now,
Yeah,
but they wrote a book called Reparations that is going to be challenging, affirming for many of us, and helpful for many of us in giving us language around the importance of justice and the cause of justice. Pastor Christopher, that's one of my heartbeats right there. Just trying to merge the idea that Jesus and justice are not polar opposites, but they
go together.
certainly go together, live together. So we're gonna have a good conversation about that.
Let me just kind of wrap up this part of the conversation by reading one of these final quotes on page 209 of the book. Let me reference this really fast too. Those of you that are highlighting various things through the book, I want to call your attention to pages 66, page 66 through page 69, where they talk about characteristics for the different zones, time zones. That would be a great point for you to kind of go back over, reflect on that, see what emotions, what characteristics, what feelings, what thoughts you have that are taking place in those various zones that that will be impactful for you if you're still identifying your zones. But I just love this quote. It's very simple, but it's very powerful, I think. In the end, who you are becoming is so much more important than what you are doing.
Can I tell you the one quote I have from chapter 12 is that quote. In the end, who you are becoming is so much more important than what you're doing. So
I love it.
I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there with you. Because that was the one piece to take away for me from that chapter that was like, that's it, man. That is it. That
That's
is
the
it.
cherry on top right there.
That's it, man. So
Yeah.
y'all just saw my little book notes. It's a book summary. I'm actually going to share this with everybody who signed up for this list. It's about a 19-page book summary with a lot of quotes and green, red zone,
Produce
yellow
that in his
zone.
green zone.
Yeah, I did that in my green zone. I love doing stuff like this. So it's a book summary. We're going to give that to you all for free as part of this group. So, and just say we appreciate you all for joining us in the book club. And appreciate you, Pastor Christopher, for thinking this up and thinking through how we might be able to do this. So I appreciate you, man.
No, man, we're in it together, and I'm glad your schedule worked to help make it happen. And so next month, y'all invite some people, let them know that we're in here. We are going to take this recording and send this recording out to everyone that missed today as well. And yeah, if y'all have feedback about the format, If you thought it was going to be something different or you have recommendations, we're open to that. We're just trying to offer this in a way that we think adds value to people's lives. Many of you not just are Christian leaders, but some of y'all are Christian business leaders, you're Christian leaders in education and ministry, in marketplace, whatever it may look like. And so hopefully the cross section and different books that we'll offer this year will help to add all kinds of incredible value to your lives. So Pastor John, anything else, brother?
No, man, this has been good. This has been rich, good conversation. I'm looking forward to, I'm about to hop into my yellow zone now at 1:30 your time. So
Yeah.
do some yellow zone activities here soon.
Yeah, sit in your yellow chairs for your yellow zone.
There you go, man. Got the little setup, you know what I'm saying? That's my little reading nook over here in the corner. So yeah.
I love it. We started on time and we're ending on time, y'all. We'll see y'all next month for month 2 of our Christian Leaders Book Club. Peace.